But anyway. So welcome Raj for this interview on Azure Data Engineering role. So can you please tell me about yourself?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, Deepak. Hi, Deepak. My name is Raj. I have completed my engineering in year 2019 from Mumbai University. Since then, I'm having total 5 years of experience, out of which my initial 2.5 years I have spent as a ETL consultant, in which I was basically working with databases and data warehousing. And my recent 2.5 years of experience is in as a data engineer, in which I am using Azure Data Factory, Databricks, and have a good command over writing PySpark, Spark, and Python. I have a good background of SQL as well. Like total 5 years, I have been into SQL. Yeah, this is a crisp brief about
Okay,
myself.
great. So can you tell me about your project, please?
Yeah. So my project is basically of insurance domain. We are following basically Delta Lakehouse architecture, and here we are having like a Medallion architecture, which is on Delta Lakehouse. So we are having basically three layers: bronze, silver, and gold. What we are doing is we are getting our data from multiple sources, out of which one is from on-prem SQL DB, which is nothing but ODC. We are getting our three basic customer data, branch data, and agent data from on-premises. So like that, we're getting the data from other data. We are getting in the form of directly from upstream system in form of JSON and CSV and other, because in an insurance company we have to take a good understanding about weather as well. So weather information we are getting from REST API. Once this information is with us, we are just pulling this data with the help of ADF and loading it into our ADLS location. And once this data is in ADS location, then we perform different cleansing activities. And according to the business logic, we are finally loading the data into our gold layer. And then from that, our this thing, Power BI people or analyst can take away the
Okay.
data from there. So
So what is your team size in your project?
we are having, yeah, we are seven people and others are testers, but basically data engineers, we are seven, including our team
Okay.
lead.
Okay. And how many pipelines you have in your project?
So, yeah. So in our project, we are having 30 to 35 pipelines.
Okay, so far. So it's looked like it's a recently started project because 7 people and we have just like 30, 35 pipelines. So I
No,
assume it.
I mean, I have made 30 pipelines,
Okay.
and in total there are more than 150, 200 pipelines are there.
Oh, awesome. Looks like a big project. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, so what is the most challenging situation which you face? You have created a couple of pipelines. So you might have encountered some of the problems. So what do you feel that this is one of the most challenging situation you have been came across?
Challenging situation. Yeah, yeah. Recently, we got this thing, a requirement from the client side that a certain pipeline should work only on, only the business days, like only
Okay.
when there are no holidays for the company. So in schedule window, in the schedule trigger, what we are having there, we can just set like only to Monday to Friday we can set. But there was this problem which we were facing. If suppose there is 15th August, which is a holiday, how to do that? So for that was a challenging situation. I took the initiative myself. What I did was I prepared directly a Excel file in which we put all the holidays which were there for our company from the company's calendar. And just before running that pipeline, we were having basically we were having a lookup activity. That lookup activity used to go into that file and check whether if it is a holiday. Then we were putting a if loop, and if only if that particular date is not there, then pipeline will run. And in schedule trigger, we are just putting it Monday to Friday. So in this manner, we have made it possible. Yeah.
Okay. Got got it. Great. So that's great. So you said that you have an on-premises ODS system from which you are pulling the data. So can you tell me what was exact that data source on-premises? So what kind of a database it is, and how exactly you pull the data from it?
It is a SQL database, Azure SQL database, and we are pulling the data with the help of
Okay.
copy
When you
activity.
say Azure SQL database, so it is it an on-prem or it is a cloud one?
Oh, my bad, my bad. Okay, I was just thinking about another database. No, no, the on-prem one was Oracle database. It was on-prem Oracle database. Yes.
Okay, on-prem Oracle database. Okay.
Okay.
Now, how you pull the data from Oracle on-prem to the cloud?
With the help of copy activity.
Just only copy activity is sufficient enough to do this? Are you sure?
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, we will have to set up a pipeline to pull the data from our on-prem to ADLS location. In this pipeline, we will use a runtime. So actually, there is auto-resolve integration runtime, which will not work in this case because we are pulling the data from on-prem. So
Okay,
to
okay,
pull the
okay.
data.
I hold it. You say normally auto resolve integration runtime will not work. Can you tell me why it
Hmm.
is not going to work?
Because it is the kind of integration runtime that pulls the data only from the web, like only on the cloud. Because the it is something like that. We have to use the self hosted integration runtime, which will sit on the on premises DB, and it will provide the computation power over there from on premise, and then only we can pull the data.
So generally why? I mean, the question remains same that why
Hmm.
you need this self-hosted integration runtime, why normal auto resolve integration runtime will not going to work when you are pulling from this on-prem.
Okay.
Yeah, please go
Uh,
ahead. Okay, no worries. No worries.
okay. Okay.
Okay. Now that's okay. You pull the data from, I assume, let's say you create your self-hosted integration runtime, you pull the data. Now what next? Okay, your table data get come from your SQL server or whatever you say, Oracle server. It get it. Where you are pushing it and where you are keeping it, what is the next step it is going on in your project?
Yes, yes, yes. As soon as the data comes in, we are just dumping all the data into our landing layer. So once the data is in our landing layer, from there we will.
What is this landing layer where it is you keep this landing
Okay.
layer?
So this is basically in our ADLS account. It is a storage.
Okay,
Azure Data Lake storage. So
okay,
there we are having like a container which is named as landing container. It is a container
okay,
which name is landing, and all the data directly it is coming into the landing container.
okay. Then,
Yeah. Once the data is there in landing container with then we are again using the copy activity, and we are pushing this data into our bronze layer.
okay. So you use a copy activity to push the data into the bronze layer. So where is this
Yes,
bronze layer? Within the
A-
your
ADLS.
ADLS or a database or REST API, what kind of it is, your bronze layer?
Bronze layer is also in ADLS only.
Okay, bronze layer is also in the ADLS only. Now
Yeah.
you copy the data from one landing zone to the bronze layer. Okay, done. Copied.
Okay.
Now then,
Yeah. Once our data is there in our bronze layer, we add like flag to it so that when it is going to next layer, then we can identify. This flag is just added to distinguish which data we have pushed further and which is remaining. So this is how the flag thing works.
okay. So
Mm,
if my understanding is correct, you said that you first pull the data from your
mm,
on-prem to the
mm,
ADLS, and that is
mm.
in terms of a file or a table.
Yes, yes,
Is it file or table?
yes. It is a table.
So how you keep the table in ADLS?
We save it as a table. It is ADLS. It is getting saved underneath in the form of Parquet file.
So it is a table or it is a Parquet file?
It is a Parquet file in ADLS environment.
Okay, so it is a file in ADLS in, okay. Then
Yeah,
what is your bronze layer is also then file only? You said you
yeah, it
copy.
is. Yes, it is a Parquet file and only.
Okay, it is a Parquet file, but it is a table or it is a file?
It is a file, just that we can access file in the form of table because of this data lakehouse architecture. We are using
How you are
Delta
using
Lake
data
upon it.
lakehouse architecture?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We are implementing Delta Lake upon it. It is Delta Lake is like a
Okay,
framework
sorry,
which
sorry
is.
to interrupt, but
Hmm,
what you said, we'll go step by step. Okay, now don't
okay.
want to confuse you. You said you
Hmm,
move the data from on-prem to the cloud using
hmm,
copy activity. You keeping it as in ADLS. Then again, you are
yeah,
using copy activity to move the data from your landing to the bronze layer, right? That
yes,
is also
yes,
a copy activity. Now, where the
yeah.
delta lake comes in here?
You ask, right? So what is the format? So that
Yeah.
is
So
why.
you keep it into you copy it as a using copy activity. You copying it as a file, just right? Parquet file.
Hmm, hmm,
So how it will
yeah,
become a
yeah.
data lakehouse architecture?
So we are saving this file in Parquet format, right? And this Parquet format, we are saving it in our ADLS location, but Parquet is not directly accessible. We cannot do DML operation on the Parquet file as it is. So that is why we are using this kind of Delta Lake in which we can do DML operation and asset properties are there. And this file will behave like a table, and we can do all the commands like we used to do on the normal warehouse, normal table.
Okay. Sorry to know, but seems like there is some confusion. You might be talking about the Databricks. You started talking about the Databricks, not only the ADF, because you cannot do this DML operation, etc., in the tables which you're going to create, like as Spark tables. Okay,
Okay, okay,
you getting my point? I'll come back to that in a few minutes. Okay, so assume that all this get done. Okay, now assume that all this is working fine. So I assume you are using the Databricks as well because, as you said, you are using the Databricks for cleaning and all. What size of a
yeah.
data you are getting in
We are getting roughly 5 GB of data.
per pipeline basis you're talking about, or overall you're talking about
So per pipeline, we are getting nearly half a GB of data.
per pipeline?
Yeah, per pipeline, half a GB of data we are getting.
You just said 5 GB.
I said point. Okay, okay. By mistake, it is zero point 0.5 GB of data per pipeline.
Okay. Point 0.5,
Yeah, yeah.
point 0.5 GB of a
Like,
data per pipeline
yeah,
basis. Okay.
yes, yes.
Is it a big size data or it is a small size data only? What do you feel?
I feel it is not that big size of data, but comparing, we are having so many, like lots of pipelines. So that is
Okay.
why that
Now
data.
imagine a situation that instead of this, your point 0.5 GB, you got 50 GB in your one pipeline. Okay. And you are doing that cleaning in the Databricks using the Spark. Okay. How would you do this Spark performance optimization?
Okay. So there are an number of way of using a Spark performance. The first way is that we can, like, if there are two tables on which suppose joining is happening, and we will see, like, if suppose any one of the table is smaller one, we can go for broadcast join. What broadcast join will do is the smaller table, which is whichever it is there, it will distribute it along all the partition, so that during the joining operation, essentially shuffling will be avoided, because it will go and, like, each larger table can join with that smaller table without any shuffling. So what we say, data passing across the partition can be stopped, and our uh, time can be reduced. This is one. Another one is we can use a broadcast join. Broadcast join. Then we can use that is bucket join. In this, the data is stored in form of, like we can say, on the joining is happening if on basis of country, so that whatever table which are there, we will put them in partition by group by country, and the other table is also there, and if the joining key foreign key is country, they will also fall back in different containers on basis of the country. Just there is one condition, that number of buckets for table 1 and table 2 should be same, and then only this bucket join can happen. Other than that, there is something called as repartition. This we are doing to reduce the data skewness. And apart from this, there is adaptive query, this thing, which is Spark internal optimization, that we don't need to take care. Spark on its own can optimize the query performance.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Raj. So I think let's get into the second half of this. Thank you for coming in. So in second half of this, we'll analyze and we'll understand like where you did good and where you did little bit improvement is needed. Okay, so let's get started with this.
Yeah.
Okay, assessment.
Yeah.
So starting with it, your presentation is good, your com skills is good. So there you're doing perfectly well. Second thing is at one point you said it like we are pulling the data from data sources, which is one of them is ODC. So it's not ODC, it's ODS, operational data store. Okay.
Okay.
Second thing,
Okay.
I feel like you somehow wanted to talk about the SQL server, but you end up with talking Azure SQL database. So you cannot do this mistake when you're saying that my source is on-prem and then I'm pulling the data from on-prem. When somebody asks you what is your on-prem DB, answer is crystal clear. SQL server, maybe in our case you might wanted to say SQL server, but you end up with saying that Azure SQL DB, which is not
Mhm.
right, because Azure SQL database or Azure SQL server is basically a cloud one. It's not a on-prem. Okay. So keep, I mean, take care of that. Then your project explanation startup is good, perfectly fine. That is okay. So that is you are ready with it. Then then I second question probably I have asked is about the challenging situation, which you come up with, right? Only one thing which I would love would be is like you don't say how you did it until unless I'll ask. So I ask, so I want you to go slow on that. That you said what was the problem, you taken it, you set the stage very rightly. Then you leave it ideally rather than saying it like how you'd solve that. Let's wait for that question to come in. Okay, that how you solve it. So you just explain the problem and pause. Okay, and let the interviewer ask. Okay, done. Then the third thing which we talked about is how you do the on-prem to the cloud, right? Then you talked about, okay, we use a copy activity. And then when I ask force in and I ask it, like only the copy activity, then you said about that we need to have, you were got a little bit fumble about the integration runtime. Okay. So and then you talked about that we need a self-hosted integration runtime instead of that the auto resolve integration runtime. But you are not very clear why we need the self-hosted one. So the answer is like auto resolve integration runtime is picking and calling it from random IP addresses. So probably your private network cannot get reached from that random IP addresses, right? Because that is not something which is bind. Okay. So probably that is probably your private network will not allow to that connection to get passed through because of your firewall and all. And that's where we need a self-hosted integration runtime. So that self-hosted integration runtime will be a fixed one which is connecting to your database server, because your database server is expecting a call from a limited IP addresses only. And then your self-hosted machine will get fixed. And then that IP address will be, whitelisted by the firewall of your database server so that that connection get passed through. So that is something which you need to work upon. You remember we have covered in our sessions. Okay. So just go back to those sessions
Yes.
and, cover that. That why we need the self-hosted IR instead of the your on-prem. For your auto resolve. Okay. Then we talked about your project. Okay. Then, okay, data comes in and then how you going to, how you going to take the data forward after your lending data comes in. Probably at that piece, ideally as per the process, maybe it's more of like either we are copying into the bronze layer via
Mhm.
Databricks, if you remember. Okay. The project
Yeah,
which you were
yeah,
talking about is, as you said, as you mentioned it, that it is something which you'll be talking about in the Databricks side. So your data is getting saved into the bronze layer as a delta table, but you creating those delta table using the Databricks, right? You create the bronze layer database, and then you're storing that bronze layer tables as a bronze tables as a delta table, and under the hood table will get saved as a parquet word. You can go and do all that DML operation. Generally, normal DML operation is not allowed on normal Spark tables, but when you make a Spark table as a delta table, then you can apply all that. So then the flow is like, from there, once you get the data from your on-prem and it is there in ADLS, you go back to your Databricks, and from Databricks you are fetching that
yeah,
tables and
yeah.
pushing it
Mounting.
into, yeah, using the mounting and all. So I think that piece you got missed. Okay, so just cover that up. Then when we talked about the size of the data for your pipeline, you said it like 5 GB initially, then you get it to the zero point 0.5 GB, you know. So that is something which, that's an expected question which you can always, have a clear cut in the mind that what is your correct size. Okay, so don't get confused between the zero point 0.5, 5 GB, 500 MB per pipeline. Don't just say that. When I asked like, well, how much data you are processing, and you said 5 GB. If it is was a 1 TB, it was okay, but 5 GB looks very small. So when you giving a very small thing, you have to crys- crystal clear set it, okay, 5 GB per pipeline, okay, or per day basis, per pipeline per day, something like that. You getting my point? So you have to
Yeah,
crystal clear, define it so that eventually your numbers should look bigger. The whole idea is that number should look bigger. So rather than talking about less number, try to talk about a bigger number. Okay, and then
yeah,
from that you cut down to the lower number, rather than take out a lower number and then extrapolating it to the larger number. So you might start saying that, okay, we are processing a 1 TB of data on a monthly basis. Okay, overall. Then you'll say that your
yeah,
every pipeline,
yeah,
no, no, we have a 10 pipeline, every pipeline is might having 100 GB, or like 100 1 GB, and we're running 100 times a pipeline in a month, something like that. Overall, this is how it become a terabyte. Okay, do that. Then lastly, we talked about the Spark optimization. So for the Spark optimization, yeah, I mean, I understand you trying to talk about all those concepts, but I feel that it could be further more, um, you should create a kind of a scenario and then talk about it, because otherwise will be very generic.
yeah.
So maybe
Mhm.
when I ask that, okay, you got to find it terabytes of 1 TB of a data or something like that, then how you will optimize your this Spark code? Then you must come up with something like that. Okay, so let's assume that on this a large database, on large this data, generally whenever we have a small, I mean, when we have a narrow transformation, problem does not happens up. Mostly the Spark optimization you need to comment when we get into the kind of a wide transformation. So I assume that we have a lot of wide transformation. Because of that, probably this problem is coming up. Got it? So
Yeah,
that's how you start up with. And then you talk about it, okay, that there could be a join is there. So now we might do a join optimization. So there could be a multiple ways in which we can do a join optimization. Maybe we could do kind of repartitioning, do using a bucketing, using something like sort merge join, or some different way techniques, right? So that's how you slowly progress it. And the another good thing is that you are talking about the delta tables. Okay, so then there is a performance optimization in the delta lake of its own, like you have an optimize command, right? Or you can run a vacuum command also, which can also cut down some extra data which is not automatically deleted, which is outside the retention period. So all those things you keep in the mind. But I mean, to to make your story looks more brighter, if somebody is asking a very vague question, something like that, tell me how you can optimize it. So you create a scenario around it. Okay, so
yeah,
that your answer could looks more justified. Okay, So for example, you talk about the country. Now, country is out of the scope, right? I mean, so
Yeah,
then
yeah,
you have to
yeah.
define your data set and then talk about the country. Okay.
Mhm.
So
Understood.
let's look. So let's say, for example, we have a lots of data, and then our data is scattered across multiple countries. And now let's say we are doing a joining around it. So maybe we can partition the data based on the country, and then it will make sense to optimize it. You getting my point? So
Yeah.
that's how it's. Although your answer was looks okay, it's not that, I mean, bad, but I feel like how we can make it more, looks more better. So that could be few points. Otherwise, overall it looks okay. I was purposefully, trying too much digging into the project because a lot of people was wanted to check it like how the project thing goes on. So probably these points, I think in the real interview, maybe you not get too much dig down onto this project thing also. But yeah, I was purposefully doing it. So I hope you get the point, like where you have to work upon. So
Yes, yes,
maybe we
understood.
can connect another time after you prepare for all this, and then we have a one more round of interview. Okay,
Yeah,
great. I
yeah.
hope you enjoyed it, and those who are watching this also enjoyed and learned a lot. Thank you so much, Raj, for coming on this. See you soon.
Thank
Bye.
you.